Hey guys, I'm Chalena,
And I'm Courtney.
and this is Mysteries at the Coffee Shop. And today's episode, Courtney is going to go over what are you going to go over again?
I went over a couple of lores from my hometown and some old Southern wives' tales.
Interesting. Okay. And then at the end of this episode, we are also going to do a podcaster interview. So I'll be asking Courtney some questions, just like she asked me questions on the last episode. So if you want to stick around for that, you are welcome to. If you want to skip it, that is totally fine. No hard feelings, not going to hold it against you. Actually, I might. But, anyways, with that being said, I'm going to let Courtney start. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the first lore that I have, I asked my mom, dad, and my grandma about some lores from their childhood. And they said one that I had well, all of them I do not really know about, so I had them explain it to me. And the first one that they told me about was Screaming Jack.
What?
And apparently, I tried to look it up to see if this was just, a Southerner thing or this was just like a where I'm from thing. And I'm pretty sure it's just a where I'm from thing because they said that their parents used to tell them about it and it screams like a woman or cries like a baby. And my mom and my grandma always said that they heard it was a black panther. And then my dad rolls up and says he's always heard it was a bird, like a really big bird. Don't know how you go from that to that, but yeah.
I can understand the Black Panther, although there's no records of Black Panthers in
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee,
Right.
unless this is very likely, um, unless somebody up there has a pet Black Panther, in which case you won't know that they have it because they probably are not allowed to have that. That's probably illegal. But it's more than
Definitely.
likely. I mean, you guys are up there like in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're up there in the mountains, there are a lot of people who have lots of land enough to
Oh
where
yeah.
they can hide an animal like that, but big cats like cougars and panthers have been known to be able to mimic the sounds of crying babies and the
Mm-hmm.
sounds of other animals, just so that they can get closer to their prey. So I believe that. As far as a bird, actually,
Yeah.
no, I kind of believe that too. Because you would think like there's not anything out in nature to mimic that, but people's cockatoos, parrots get out all the time. And I don't know if you heard about this bird, but there was a man in Florida who had a parrot who, for whatever reason, when he was locked away in his cage and he wanted out, he would scream, "Help me," and all
Oh my
that stuff. And
gosh.
somebody called the police on him. And the police showed up and they're like, "Are you holding someone captive here?" And he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And he showed them the bird and like they had the best laugh, but like seriously though, that bird almost got him in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
It was hilarious.
I was talking to my dad about it and I asked him, I was like, do you think that whatever's out there was screaming to lure somebody? And dad said that he has actually heard the screams and it will send chills down your body to where you don't even want to go in the woods. And I'm sure we have like a bobcat or something up there that can scream. And so I'm sure that's probably what it is, but it's cool that they named it Screaming Jack and like everybody knows about it.
Right, right. That one's pretty cool. I like that one.
Yes, so the next one I have actually comes from my grandmother and my grandma's mom, so my great grandmother. So I've never heard of this, but my grandma said that when she was little, they would tell her about creatures that live under the bridge near their house. And it was named Rawhead, and there was also Bloody Bones, and they lived under the bridge. So I don't know like my great grandmother told my grandmother about this. So I don't know if it was to keep them away from the bridge, but she said every time they would drive over the bridge, my grandmother would be scared of Bloody Bones and Rawhead.
So like what are they? Like what do they do? Would they come out from under the bridge and grab you, or like she was too scared to like talk about that?
Yeah, my grandmother says she can't remember much about it because she just remembers being like petrified as a child. But she said that they were just creatures that lived under the bridge, and she was always scared of the bridge. So it was very vague, very vague.
So it kind of reminds me, do you remember that book about like the three Billy Goats Gruff or whatever.
Yes.
Do you remember that? I think
Yes.
my mom and well, not my mom. No, not my mom. It was my teacher. My teacher had that book in her classroom. It was like one of her favorite books, and she read it over and over again. And I'm not gonna lie, that terrified me as a child. It
Oh yeah.
terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
And like she
Yes.
kept reading it, and I don't know why. And I'd sit there crying, and she would just continue to read it. And she was like, it's just a book." And I was like, "This motherfucker's gonna come and grab me from under the bridge and eat me like he did the fucking goats."
Yes, like Rawhide and Bloody Bones sounds terrifying.
Right, right. And yeah, their names obviously don't don't sound very good, but I'm
No.
assuming I think crossing bridges in general are dangerous. They kind of just tell little kids to not cross because there's a really good chance that they'll fall off the
Oh yeah,
bridge.
absolutely. Those are the two lures I have. So I was going to go over some wives' tales that some older ones my grandmother told me that I had never heard, and then some of them that I grew up with.
Yeah.
So the first one I have is to you don't sweep under somebody's feet or they'll never get married. I was always told that as a child. Like my mom would be like, you'd be sitting down and my mom would sweep and she'd be like, lift up your feet. She was like, oh, I better not sweep under them and you'll never get married.
Is there a reasoning behind that?
Not that I know of. I tried to look it up, but that's just one of those old things that just have gotten passed down.
Yeah, my aunt and my grandma, we've never heard that one, but of course, like if they had to sweep under your feet, they would beat you with the broom and tell you to move. Get out of the way. I'm obviously, you see me trying to sweep. I need you to move.
Yes. So the second one I have is to never close a pocket knife you didn't open. It's bad luck.
I've heard of that one.
Yep. That one was a very big, like, I can remember being younger and, opening a knife and handing it to my dad. And he's like, I'm not closing this. Like, this, close it yourself. You opened it, you closed it.
I think it's funny, like, because a lot of people I know, like, they do that. My husband does that.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's like, if I open a pocket knife, he won't close it for me.
Nope.
He's like, you better figure it out because I'm not closing it for you. And I was like, do you? For someone who's not superstitious, that sounds like you're a little
Right.
superstitious.
Absolutely. So there's also one that I had not heard of. My dad told me this one. It was like you don't give a knife as a gift or it'll cut your love in half with that person. I had never heard that one.
I don't think I've heard of that one either. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like you don't give a knife as a gift because that means you're gonna backstab him or something. I don't know.
I think there's also one that goes like that.
Yeah, is a knife even like I don't know, like nice chef knives? Those are pretty good gifts.
And right, I would appreciate that.
I would also appreciate that. My love will not be cut in half. All right, if I don't have to sit there and sharpen dull knives in my kitchen, I love you forever.
Exactly. So here's just like your standard, like don't walk under an open ladder. It's bad luck.
Is it bad luck or is it more like that ladder is gonna close on you and the person underneath it is gonna fall and you're definitely gonna die?
Exactly.
My dad always told me that. And then one day he was like, yeah, it's not necessarily bad luck as much as is I don't want to die from you walking under this ladder. For the love of God, please stop.
Yep. Safety precaution.
Exactly.
So this is when my grandmother, it's one of her favorites to say. She said it just this weekend. So if your ear itches, someone is talking about you. So like we were in the middle of a conversation and we were talking about someone and her ear starts to itch and she was like, oh, so and so must be talking about me. Like that's her favorite one. I've heard that forever.
That's a pretty good one. Similar one is if, you have a dream about somebody, that means they're thinking about you. So
Mm-hmm. So a similar one to that as well is my grandma's also always said this: a sudden chill means someone's walking over your grave. That one always freaks me out because like you think about it and it's like they're talking about where you're gonna be buried. Like
I guess that would make sense if you guys were the type of family to have graves set aside, but we don't do
yes.
that. So yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to be crispy when I die. So.
One that I have always swore by, and I still say it: if you walk by or you drive by a cow field and the cows are laying down, that means it's gonna rain. I have
Does it work every time?
pretty much that I've seen. And I've talked it, like, I've said this since I was younger because of my family. And my dad has always told me that they lay down when it's going to rain so that when they stand back up, they have a dry place to stand. I have no idea how true that is. Probably not, but we have always said it. So if I ever drive by a cow field and they're laying down, I'm like, oh, it's going to rain.
You know what's funny is like they actually probably do know when it's gonna rain.
Probably.
So like, yeah, I mean, my dog, my Chihuahua Max, is terrified of thunderstorms and the rain. So if she starts shaking, I know it's gonna storm,
They sense
and then I give her a trazodone.
it.
I don't know why she thinks she's gonna die when it happens, but you know.
Good old faithful trazodone.
Oh yeah.
So this is also one I believed for a really long time. My dad terrified me of this as a child, going swimming in the lakes and stuff. And he always told us that if you're swimming or you're just like out in the lake and a snapping turtle bites you, it won't release until it thunders. Which is not true, but
I mean, it's not true, but also partially true because it definitely won't let go until it bites off a chunk of your body.
yeah. So I was always terrified as a kid because we were told that if we get bit, it's not coming off until it thunders. And I believed that for a very long time.
So my husband, I like mentioned to him like, "Oh, we should go swimming in the lake or whatever," and he was like, "I'm not ever going swimming in like a pond or like, you know, somewhere secluded where there's like snapping turtles in there cuz his irrational fear is that the snapping turtle is going to bite off his penis." And I was like, "You know, that's a pretty rational fear cuz I am pretty
Yeah,
sure that has happened."
probably. I would say so. Especially the people that go like, they're it's called noodling and stuff, and they catch
They
like the
call
big
it
catfish.
noodling?
Like they catch the
Okay.
catfish, and that they're snapping turtles right there. Like, and they've caught them before, so it's like very
Oh,
rational.
like the hillbilly hand fishing where they just
Yes,
stick their arm down in that like no, I'm not
yes.
brave enough to do that.
Me neither.
I thought when you
Crazy.
said noodling, I thought you meant like skinny dipping and I was like, I will never skinny dip ever. Okay, I will not have a snapping
No,
turtle bite off of my nipples. I'm not
no.
doing it. That is a horrible
Terrifying.
idea. I don't care how romantic and sexy they make it look in the movies. You live down in the south, your bits are going to get bitten off by a snapping turtle.
Yes. So the last wives' tale I have, I think you're gonna get a kick out of this one. My grandmother said that her mom believed this, and it was that cats will suck the breath out of babies and it'll kill them. I
I've
was
heard
like,
of that one.
I had never heard of that, but my grandmother says that her mom believed it. So,
Right, right. My parents when they moved to the US, they also thought that as well because of like all the accounts of like the cat sleeping in the baby's cradle and then the
mhm,
baby coming up dead. It it's actually because like the cat doesn't understand that the baby can't expand its lungs when it's laying on
yes,
top of them.
yes,
So like they accidentally suffocate the baby.
absolutely. The cat's got
Makes
such
me
a bad
sad.
rep because of
I
that.
know. I know. And it's just like they're just trying to be sweet, but they don't
Yeah,
understand that it's like they're suffocating it cuz my cat sleeps on my chest all the time.
right. And
And
I'm
then
sure
like
that the cats like sucking the baby's breath out of them come from like, people when they believed like people were witches and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's definitely an old wives tale, but like they figured out that it was just the cat was just squishing the baby. Like they don't understand.
No, they're
'Kay,
trying
I
to
mean, they
cuddle.
squish their babies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're just like, "Yep, I just laid on top of my kid. It's fine." Human baby, not so much.
Okay,
Right.
so that is all the wives' tales I have for us.
So we'll get into the podcaster's interview next. So my question for you is what part of Tennessee would you say you grew up in? Because obviously I'm northern Georgia and then you're middle Tennessee?
Yeah, it's considered Middle Tennessee.
Middle Tennessee? Okay.
Yep.
So you said mountains, right?
Hmm.
So, like, was there anything in the mountains that, you know, brings you like really good memories?
Oh yeah, me and my brother, we definitely during summers had like free reign. So like I can remember going at past back my house and like into the woods, and there's this like big dip in the woods, and we built like forts, and they would go underground, and like I really loved the freedom of being able to just we would wake up, early in the morning and go out until dark time, and being up in the mountains and in such a small place, we were allowed to just kind of roam, back behind our woods, and we would go four-wheeler riding, and it was just very nice having that like peaceful upbringing where we didn't have to worry about, traffic and stuff like that.
Right, right. Because you said in your hometown you had like what, one stoplight,
Oh
one
yeah, we
red
have one
light.
red light in the entire county. We still do. Yes, no middle
Wow,
schools.
really?
Yes, we still have one red light in the whole county. One high school, no middle schools. So
So did you have to travel for middle school?
no, we actually go up there. We went K through 8th is elementary, and then 9 through 12 is high school. So we went straight from elementary school to high school.
That's really interesting.
Yes, very different. Like I
Uh,
did not know middle
yeah.
schools were a thing until I was older.
So yeah, because like my elementary school was like K through 5, and then from 6th to 8th was middle school and then high school. So how many people did you have in your graduating high school class?
Oh goodness. Ugh. Definitely less than like probably 80 or 70. Like definitely under 80, I would say.
Right.
It was probably closer to the 50 mark, I would guess.
So like you guys were like a close, tight knit community. Was that something that you really liked, or was it something that you were just like,
Definitely there was pros or cons to both, because even now I've moved away from home because it is such a tight knit, close community that there's a lot of fighting and bickering, and everybody knows everybody. So like everybody knows everything about everybody, and they blast it. Now on the flip side of that, we have like a tragedy in the community. Like when my dad fell out of his tree stand, the entire community knows about it, and they come together and like raise money for medical bills and bring back supplies and food for the family. And like if there's any we have a sudden deaths in the community raises the money to pay the funeral expenses. So there's definitely pros and cons to it. I like the closeness when tragedy hits, but like other than that, everybody knows everything. So like I can count plenty of like high school kids that went through something, and just to get away from it all, they had to move to a completely different county to go to school because, everybody knows everything.
right, right. All right, so, you and I met at community college for the vet tech program. Was that like your first time actually going out into like a really big school publicly, like on that campus?
Yes, and it was terrifying. um, yeah, so it was definitely different going from a really small high school to where I was with pretty much everyone I went through, K through 8 with, to going to a college out in, a big city where I had never really been. So it's very different. It was like almost like, a cultural shock. You're going from a hometown where there's not a lot of diversity to a big city that has, all kinds of people and things and experiences. But it was really fun. It was a great time.
Okay, so my next question is what got you into true crime? Because obviously our podcast is about all things spooky, and true crime is considered spooky. It's really scary because it can actually happen to anybody. So what got you into that?
I'm gonna say my mom. I can remember growing up and her watching all of the true crime shows that would come on cable, like Snapped and the first 48 and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely what first got me into it, and it's very interesting to me because people are so different, and you get to see you know with some of it, you can see the thoughts behind what they did and the psychological part of it. So it's very interesting to me.
I guess my next question is when you look over a case and it gets really dark and really heavy, how do you kind of like not bring that burden home with you, like to bring those emotions and stuff? Because like I said earlier in the previous episode, mythology and folklore and cryptids are a whole different, like, they're a whole different thing, right? Like, they carry
Mhm.
lessons and stuff. But true crime, on the other hand, seems to happen for no reason other than, like, hey, this person, like, is having mental health issues, or this person's pretty demented, and it just happens. So how do you
Yeah.
not take that home with you?
Um, well, for one, my husband hates it. He doesn't enjoy it. Like, he's a type of person that he doesn't enjoy it. He thinks it's just, disturbing, like, some people do, and that's totally okay. I just think of it as, this is part of, technically a side job for us, and we enjoy doing it. And it's just, I love to learn about it, and I like to bring light to the victims. And I just try to leave it, on my computer. That's where I do my research. And once I close my computer, that's that. I go and do something that I enjoy, like, watch silly, the ER dramas on TV and stuff like that, so that I'm not
Right.
breeding that, like, darkness and that burden. And sometimes it will carry, like, when we have a really bad case, it does stick with you for a while, and you really, mourn that family almost, but you try to just find happy outlets to not, burden your family with it.
Right. Okay. And then my next question, and another one, and the next one. I'm just kidding. My next question is, like, how do you feel as a podcaster? Like, do you think that it's helped you in certain ways, or that, that is just like a really good side hobby?
I think it's a very fun side hobby, especially since we became such friends, in the program, and we've been able to carry it over into our lives. And it's also just, we work in vet med, and that's also a very daunting job as it is. So it's also a nice outlet from work. So you're not focusing on, your patients when you come home. You can just kind of like do something you enjoy. And it's also, I think, brought me out of my shell a little bit. Never in a million years would I think, that I would be putting something out there for, the world to see. So I think it's definitely brought me out of my shell.
And my last question, which I ask you this all the time, but are people born evil, or do they have like a villain origin story that makes them evil?
Oh, that is such a hard question. I think both. I think some people are truly just born a bad apple. And I think some people would never be bad if X, Y, and Z didn't happen to them. I
Right.
think, let's say, like, this person, didn't go through this traumatic event. They may have went all their life without being a, bad person. But then there's also these people that come out of the womb and they're bad, you know?
I was born evil.
Yes. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think definitely I could play devil's advocate for both sides.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I totally get that. And then, how do you see yourself as a podcaster in the future? And this one will be the last one. I was trying to come up with good questions, but
You've done a great job. I think you say in the next what?
like in the next year or so, like, where do you
Okay.
see yourself, like, as a podcaster?
I hope in the next year or so we've branched out and reached more people and build our little community up, and that we have some exciting adventures and endeavors ahead of us, and we, you know, build our little true crime cryptid family as big as we can.
I would really like that. Um and again, like, thank you for all of you guys who listen.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have a huge audience, but those of you who do listen makes it worthwhile for us. Just because we love to do this, we love talking to you guys, and obviously we like talking to each other. Courtney and I are
Yes.
actually horrible texters. Surprise.
Who would have guessed?
So if you like this content, just please like, subscribe, and follow. Also, you want to play a fun game. Take a shot every time you hear us say in this episode. You would be
Yeah, don't get alcohol
sorry.
poisoning.
You would be belligerently drunk by the end of this episode. Your liver's screaming for help. But anyways, that's it for this episode. The next one is going to be true crime. So Courtney and I will follow up and do a very interesting true crime episode
Yes.
next time. So we'll keep in touch, make good choices. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.